the witch's boy. It's got witches, it's got forests, it's got bandit kings, it's got magic that is abused. It has sibling rivalry to the nth degree. Once upon a time, there were two brothers, as alike to one another as you are to your own reflection. They had the same eyes, the same hands, the same voice, the same insatiable curiosity. And though it was generally agreed that one was slightly quicker, slightly cleverer, slightly more wonderful than the other, no one could tell the boys apart.
Do we know who the smarter and better one is?
Let's say Ned is faster than Tam, but Tam is cleverer than Ned.
This is totally possible too. There might be differences, but that doesn't make one better and one worse. It makes one better at certain things, not better as a whole. One day, the boys decided it was high time that they built a raft. Working in secret and with great attention to detail, they constructed it using scraps of lumber and bits of rope and cast-off pieces of broken furniture and sticks, careful to hide their work from their mother. Once they felt the vessel was seaworthy, they slid it into the great river and climbed aboard, hoping to make it to the sea. The rushing currents pulled the raft apart, and the boys were thrown into the water. Their father, a broad, strong man, dove into the water, and though he could barely swim, he struggled through the current towards his children. As he reached one boy, the closer boy, his twin had been swept far down the length of the river and out of sight. His body washed ashore later that day, swollen and aghast. The people gathered around the small, dead child and shook their heads. "We should have known he'd bungle it. He saved the wrong boy. The wrong boy lived." The wrong boy was barely alive. His father gently laid the boy on the ground and tipped back his chin. He pressed his lips to the boy's lips and blew his own breath into the boy's mouth again and again. Ned gasped. He coughed and coughed again as river water cascaded in great rushes from his mouth. He breathed, though not very well. His father gathered him into his arms and carried him home. Back at the river, a handful of men and women from the village walked quietly down the long, lonely shore to retrieve the body of the drowned twin. The boy's mother waited, seated on a rock, straight back, her fingers shirring the fabric of her dress. Her children called her mother, her husband called her wife, and everyone else called her sister witch. "All that magic," the people muttered among themselves as they cradled the dead boy in their arms and carried him back. "And for nothing! She cannot save her own children." Her magic could only be used in the service of others. This is what people believed, and Sister Witch allowed it. Ned, her living child, struggled for breath. There was little chance the boy would survive the night. Not without help. She closed her eyes and looked for a moment, as though she was coming to a decision. Should not. Not could not.
Magic should never be used for your purpose.
For personal gain, yeah. Is it personal gain?
In a way, but
In a way.
saving your son is still saving your son.
Yes.
But it's also saving him.
But
She
it's
has an
also
emotional attachment to that person.
right. So it's right on that border of what she should do and what she shouldn't do, and she will probably use this as an excuse. Well, it's not for me, it's for my son. But you're his mother. Now, if it's for him, it's for you. The magic, an ancient, foul-tempered thing, said nothing at first. It was trapped inside its clay pot and secured in Sister Witch's workshop. She would not use the magic for personal gain. This is what she told herself as she crept down the ladder and faced the clay pot on the shelf. "This isn't magic," she said as she set the skein of thread on top of the pot. The clay pot shuddered and smoked. The thread glowed orange, then yellow, then blue, then white. The sun widened, rippled, and disappeared under the lip of the land. Tam's body shuddered slightly as his soul uncurled from his mouth, just as she knew it would. And oh, it was beautiful. "Stay with your brother," she said as she pressed the soul to the dying boy's chest. keep him alive, she said as she readied the needle. And as she pierced both soul and boy, as she stitched the two together, she said this: Mother loves you. Don't forget it. The soul opened its throat and screamed. And the scream became a sigh. And the sigh became a cough. And Ned began to heal. And he lived.
Ned might have a little Tam in his head, like yelling at him to do stuff.
His brother is with him, always, whether he knows it or not.
Whether he likes it or not.
Is this gonna go well?
No.
On the other hand, did she have much choice?
No.
If she had a choice, but
She could have left both
but did
of
she
them
have
kids
many?
die.
Yeah, she could have let both her children die. Did she have many other ways to save her child?
Yeah, none.
Ned grows up like this, but Ned grows up a little off. He loses the ability to read. What he could read, now words squiggle across the page and he can't. And he stutters horrifically. I mean, to the point where he's almost a mute.
Because, like, two people are trying to speak at once.
Quite possibly. Or some sort of brain damage or something. Whatever it was, it left him scarred in these ways. And now people in town treat him badly when his parents aren't looking.
But Tam would have been the exact same way. Because I have a feeling it's really have to do something with the magic put on him when he was about to die, and now the magic and fates are messing with him.
If the twins were alive, they wouldn't judge him, but if one was dead, it's like one's alive, one's gone. Like they make fun of that one, so this one.
Yeah.
Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry. And in it, the dad says that as long as there are people, someone's going to try to bring you down. That basically relates to this.
So he goes to the Scrivener. That's like the stationery store. In the far left corner stood a man. A stranger. He wore a pendant around his neck. An odd thing in the shape of an eye. Ned felt the invisible scabs on his chest start to itch.
That's creepy.
He gave Ned a curious look. His eyes glittered. The head scrivener said, "That there's our witch's only boy. And a waste of space if ever there was one." "A real witch, then?" The man said. "Of your very own?" "Well, that is a precious little something, isn't it?" And the pendant sparkled. Just a bit. "Precious little, I'd say." Ned glared at the scrivener. His mother's magic was a tricky, unwieldy thing, and taxing. It hurt her to use it. Saving the scrivener's son landed her in bed for a week. And now... Ned shook his head. "Oh, I think such a treasure is appreciated when it is needed, and forgotten when it is not." Wait a minute. Didn't Ned just think the same thing? And the stranger has no way of knowing any of this.
Read! Do you mind reading?
Probably not.
Pendant! The pendant has something to do
Possibly
with
the
the
pendant, possibly mind reader, but maybe he's just smart. He chuckled a bit to himself, then turned away from Ned and began to move through the crowd. And Ned saw the man reach, flick a coin purse from a belt, and make it vanish up his sleeve, and a ring from a finger. And a stylus made of carved bones, fingers were quick and clever. They moved as fast as thinking, like magic. But that wasn't possible, was it? There was only one bit of magic left in the wide world, and his mother had that. Didn't she? "I do believe I need to pay a visit to your mother. She's near, isn't she?" He held his finger in the air and closed his eyes as though listening to something. "Yes, I do believe she is. He's a thief," Ned thought, "and a liar. And he knows things, and he has plans." But what those plans were exactly, Ned had no idea.